Yeah, I think out of all of the Doctor names, Dr. Brewster, it sounds a little bit silly. Like, why is he named after my favorite Chuggington character?
Cinematic Fantastic.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Bitten by a werewolf and lives, becomes a werewolf himself.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Weatherford.
And your other host, William Weatherford.
Get ready for opinions, dad jokes,
and bad jokes
as we watch and review sci-fi and fantasy films from the classics of yesteryear to the new favorites of today.
So I guess you heard.
What did I hear?
You might just have heard. Cinematic Fantastic Season 3 is starting up.
It is?
Right now.
Right now.
Yep, you're hearing us right now. As well as you're hearing the almighty voices of those cicadas. Man, the cicadas are just so noisy and so numerous this year.
Okay.
And they're probably going to get worse or better.
Okay.
If you like cicadas in summer.
Here's the thing. We do have listeners from all over the place. I mean, mostly in the United States. Okay, so it is big in Illinois and Indiana. There are some places in the country that they're just not seeing or hearing these masses of insects and cicadas and stuff.
The basics are there are two really big cicada pods, locations. They're
broods,
really big. Yeah. They're finally turning into adults, so they're breaking out of their cocoons. Won't be this big for another 17 years, if I recall. I believe that's 2037.
The last time that this happened, it was 14 years ago. So a long time ago. Now, here's the thing. Sounds very scientific, but let's bring it into the realm of science fiction. All you have to do is reword this slightly, and it's horrifying. From out of the earth, slumbering for decades upon decades, billions of insectoid creatures rise to populate the earth with their unholy spawn.
In other words, that one horror movie about the birds that was really awful.
Yeah, no. Which one? Oh, Birdemic?
Yeah.
Birdemic, Shock and Terror or whatever. I thought you were saying the
Sharknado.
Birds.
I mean, it could be an action movie too.
I thought you were going to say The Birds by Alfred
Hitchcock.
Any
pest can be any sort of movie.
That one is actually good. The Birds is actually good. All these other movies are just trying to be The Birds.
Or they're trying to be Bird Box. Or whatever that Netflix movie about that they had to blindfold themselves against the monsters. You have to
blindfold yourself to get against the monsters, right. Which...
So many birds. Not enough cicadas.
There are...
Until now.
We've got a lot of killer insect movies coming up when we get into the 50s. But what are we talking about today?
We're talking about a different kind of pest. Although, we still want to keep them alive because, endangerment. Bats.
Bats.
They're soft. Like cats.
If you remember the vampire bat episode where we talked about that, yes, he's referring to Dwight Fry's character that was just constantly, he loved bats just like like somebody loves cats,
And how we love yammering on. Today we are doing Son of Dracula, 1943, which may perhaps be the last good movie that Universal has. Unless it has Frankenstein in it, honestly. Because I feel like
we've got some more to go.
Were like, House of Frankenstein was sort of pretty good. I mean, they had a lot of action and stuff. And Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, that one's Frankenstein next. Action. And that's it, actually. I mean, who's going logo for She-Wolf? Yo? Anyone? Nah, of course not.
It's She-Wolf of London.
She-Wolf of London specifically.
So we got Werewolf of London, now we got the She-Wolf of London. And no
one likes her.
Well, it's probably filmed in California, I'll bet. I don't think it was filmed in London. I think the other one was, but I think this one is probably filmed in California. So it's going to look
Actually, now that you think about this was actually, other than, like, that Mummy movie that we did, where they went to America, this is, like, the only Dracula movie in America. It's in Louisiana, apparently.
Right.
How do you think about it?
Yeah, that's true. And they started doing, I think the mummy movies, they really started moving into America just to save money. But I mean, did they do the same thing with this? Or I mean, okay. Part of the interesting part of this is that it takes place in New Orleans. I guess it's New Orleans. It's like Louisiana. It's swampland and
not the New Orleans, because that's Bustling City.
Well, Bustling City, but the way that they would portray things is you've got the bayou. You know, when people think of New Orleans, I mean, they think of a certain way that the city looks. And I used to live in Slidell, which is across the bridge from New Orleans. And there are swampy bayou.
You got to see that skyline.
Yeah. There are swampy bayou areas in Louisiana, but they're not as prevalent as this movie seems to make it feel like. I mean, it makes it feel like, oh, you just turn to the right and there's a bayou or a swamp. That's not exactly how it is. But when people think of like Louisiana and New Orleans, you know, back in the 40s, they're going to think about swamp and very like southern.
They're going to think crocodiles.
Plantation.
There weren't any crocodiles in this movie, actually.
There weren't. No. I almost expected there to be, but there was. I mean, the only nocturnal creatures would be Lon Chaney Jr. You know, his immaculate mustache.
To pull us into this movie more, yeah, Lon Chaney is returning in this movie, as well as Evelyn Ankers, Kurt Sudmak of Wolfman fame. We've got Eric Taylor of the Black Cat fame. And,
nice.
Kurt Sudmak would honestly, we sort of have a dubious mindset of him. It's sort of like, you know, he's pretty good, but he's sort of, you know, he makes his marks on his projects. He's like, I'm going to do things eloquently, you know? Okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? When you say that he puts his what kind of mark he puts on it? Eloquence. What do you mean? Like
it's just like an overall vibe. It's written fairly, you know. It feels like drawing like broad strokes. Very, you know. Gonna make this nice and shapely.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything else I could say about it.
Yeah, didn't his brother direct it, Robert?
Oh yeah, his brother did direct it. And if I recall, he would be sort of renowned for his film noir works later.
You can see the film noir in this movie. Okay, now, not to put too fine a point on it, but this movie is a film noir that just happens to have a vampire in it. Because you've got a femme fatale, which is basically a female character who is mysterious, who, you know, seductive, and maybe you can't trust her, and she's got plans within plans, and people are tricking other people, and darkness and shadow and stuff like that. That's noir, but it just happens to be noir that's taking place in, like, you know, gothic southern kind of surroundings, rather than the big city with the rain always coming down. And you don't really have a detective character. You do have, I guess you have a character, kind of that character in Dr. Brewster. Dr. Brewster's kind of trying to solve the mystery. I have a question. Could you perhaps see that they were trying to remake Dracula? They've kind of got a Dr. Van Helsing, if you bought him off of Temu.com. And you've got Dr. Brewster, who's kind of like Dr. Seward, who was the guy who worked at the asylum. Who else? And you kind of have a female character who is being pursued by Dracula. And you've got the... what was it? I was about to say Frank Wimple or whatever. That's who he was in the Mummy. Okay, who was the guy? I know the Harker. John.
Yeah, I think you're on the money.
Okay, what was the name of the actor? Do you remember? I know where I'm having my mind is blanking, but what's the name of the actor who played that guy? And he was also in The Mummy as well.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been like...
he was so wooden, and we forgot.
It's been at least like 4 months since we've done a podcast. We're just jumping back into season 3 here, and so that's the situation. We're just like what was that again?
David Manners.
Yeah, we've got another David Manners.
But this one actually, okay. If you want to talk about the way that what's his name? This guy's name is
Frank.
Robert Page. Yeah, Frank, but he's played by Robert Page. He's not the greatest actor in the world, but he actually sinks himself into this a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like he gives me David Tennant vibes, and that's the one thing. Is just slight Tennant vibes.
That is not a bad slight on him. I mean that's not a put down at all. That's actually
like David Manners does not give any David Tennant vibes. He just very slightly Robert Page gives David Tennant vibes.
I think because he's kind of like where he's like losing his mind. Does that make sense? Yeah, like where he's he's like
well no, just in the general vibe of him.
Okay.
Because he's sort of a little bit, you've got he's off his nutter slightly. But like
a little
not
bit
in a bad
frazzled,
way.
A little frazzled too. Where he's kind
just
of,
with him you can see that there's something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I agree on that. Now Evelyn Ankers is
although David Tennant of course is a very strong actor.
Yeah, he is. Evelyn Ankers is in this, but she does not have as big a part. It's almost like, was Evelyn Ankers was also in a Frankenstein movie, right? Was it Ghost of Frankenstein? Because
I think she was at least in Invisible Agent.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, Evelyn Ankers was in Ghost of Frankenstein. She was like the daughter of the guy who was doing Frankenstein's, Dr. Frankenstein's experiments. She was like the daughter. She was the one who like was flipping through his journal. And Evelyn Ankers, of course, she had a bigger part in The Wolfman, but because she was the love interest. But in this movie, she's definitely playing second fiddle to Louise Albritton. Louise Albritton is kind of the main character in this. I mean, she is pursuing Dracula, just to give part of the plot away. She's pursuing Dracula to get immortality, to get turned into a vampire. She kind of doesn't want to die. She has a fascination with death, but doesn't want to die. And she wants to stay in the plantation known as Dark Oaks. She wants to stay there forever. And she even wants to marry Dracula, but kind of she's using him for his power. So that's kind of an interesting way of going about it. It's almost like it's like Twilight, but like, well done.
Are you really?
Well,
he just said Twilight, but well done.
Yes. Okay.
Really?
Let me explain. In the movie, in the book,
that is more credit than it deserves.
Let me explain. In Twilight, Edward does not want to turn Bella into a vampire, but she keeps begging to do it. Because she's like, I want it. And he's saying, you don't know what you're asking for. It's more like it haunts me or something like that. So he eventually does turn her into a vampire, but she's the one who's begging for it. So that's what I'm connecting it to. I'm not necessarily saying, I'm not saying Twilight's better or whatever, or this is better. I'm just saying this is kind of doing it a little better. She wants to use the immortality to eventually make him a vampire too, and then destroy Dracula, and they can live happily ever after at Dark Oaks. I don't think she thought this plan out too far. But you got to give it, she's a character she's making decisions. She's got agency. She's kind of a proto-goth, too. She's kind of really into death and the occult, and she's into all that weird stuff. So she's kind of a goth chick, if you think about it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, it does not. But finish your argument here.
No, I'm just saying she's got black hair, and she's got a morbid fascination with death, and she believes she's telepathically talking to a vampire. I mean, that's kind of dark, but she's using it against Dracula.
Well, it's not dark. She's just got a high she's got a high ESP level. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, she's having conversations with dudes that aren't even there, and it's kind of freaking her sister out, which we'll talk about later. But okay, here's
my argument here.
Okay, what's your argument?
Is that honestly they don't really do this as well as you think, because you've got to remember that this movie starts in media res.
Okay.
As at the beginning of the story, we are told that there is a Count Alucard. People are inquiring about him. We don't know why.
Right.
Who is Count Alucard? What has he done? Why are they inquiring about him?
Is he Dracula or the son of Dracula?
Well, we don't know anything at this point.
Yeah, we don't know anything at the beginning of the story. Yeah.
We never really know why Count Alucard and Catherine have a relationship at all.
Right.
And we don't really know why Cat is mystic as well. A lot of those are just because we said so.
Yeah, and they met earlier though. She supposedly she was in
Hungary. They don't set this up, you know.
No, they just mention things like, "Oh, you met him in Hungary, and you're inviting him to come over and be introduced to the whole family."
Yeah, but like, out of all, like, why? Why would someone become like this mystic girl with high ESP or something? Why is the Count Alucard here? Why are people searching for him? Like,
he's a guest. He's a guest. She invited him. She invited him to the plantation.
Yeah, but what does she matter then? Yeah, got you stumped there. We don't know.
They're just starting the story. Her dad is rich. She's rich.
Yeah, and she doesn't really have much of a personality either. She doesn't really. At the beginning of the story, you're like, okay, who's this woman?
Yeah,
why?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have loved to seen like a romantic like Anne of Green Gables type sort of thing, where it's like,
okay,
I've just, she's just really passionate, like obviously passionate.
Yeah.
And like, for like reasons, that are actually explained. And then maybe like it would help to tell this. Especially because it's like, if you're gonna have this, then why not commit to it? And why not set it up properly? You're just gonna go,
here's this
idea, we're not gonna do so much with it, it's superficial, so you're gonna forget about it, really.
Yeah,
just forget about it, we said so.
And honestly,
that's the issue.
Well, honestly, the story goes back and forth with, you've got Dr. Brewster and Laszlo, Professor Laszlo, and they're kind of, who is the Van Helsing kind of stand-in, and they're kind of puzzling about, who is this Count Alucard? And you got the other end where Alucard and Catherine have their own plans of what they're doing, and Frank is trying to figure out what they are. It's shadowy dealings and going back and forth. Let's go here, and then let's go to location B, and for whatever reason. And there isn't much of a story. There isn't much of a story there. You honestly, I could sum it up really quick, but we'll do that when we get.
Yeah,
to the
you
plot
honestly
part.
can. But
I will when we get to the plot part.
But another thing is that related to their relationship being sort of dubious, their basic plan, other than to be made both immortal, is to hole up in their house, away from socialization.
Right.
Water the plants, because they have a plantation, and do scientific research.
I don't think they care too much about the plants. They're just gonna, but anyway.
It really.
Yeah, that's right.
All they're gonna shun humanity, research together.
The research,
really?
I think the research is just an excuse. The research is just an excuse.
And they don't seem like they love each other that enough. And if you're going to have them
she's leading him on. She's leading him on. She's leading Dracula on.
If you're going to have them say that, then you're going to need to set that up, which again, they don't do. They really just pile stuff on, and it's like, okay, but why? What is the significance?
But they just care about. But William, they just care about each other. Why? Because we said so.
Kurt Sudmak is like a good writer and all, but like
he has some decent ideas. He has some decent ideas. He has
ideas, but he's like, I'm just gonna put them on the table, and I'm not gonna go like, okay, look at these ideas. Don't you see that you could make this work?
But he didn't write the script. It was Eric. What's his name? What's his name? Do you know what his name was? Let's see.
Eric Taylor.
Taylor. Yeah. He did the screenplay. But when they say story by, that means that's the guy. He came up with the idea. He's just like, and then this happens, and then this happens. That's all that Kurt Sudmak.
Yeah, the writer is really the one who's just expounding upon Kurt Sudmak's ideas.
Yeah, basically he's Sudmak,
like, you're not giving me too much to work with then.
Well, he brings the skeleton. Kurt Sudmak brings the skeleton, and the screenplay writer is supposed to fill in the muscles of the whole thing. The connective tissue. This is why they go from place to place. Here's what they say.
Yeah, there's not that much connective tissue in this movie.
No, it's not. It does have its good points though. Okay. And its downsides. Let's talk about some of the good points. Okay.
Effects.
Yes.
Special effects.
For the first time, we actually see a transformation of Dracula, and we'll discuss whether it is Dracula or not. Dracula into a bat.
As well as Mist.
The Mist is probably the one that made me go, oh, more often than not. I mean, it's 1943 special effects. So, okay.
But transparent gases has probably got to be one of the hardest, like, green screens ever.
I think they probably did over the black velvet because and the smoke. Because the white would show up really well and the black would not show up at all. Didn't the same guy who did the special effects for Invisible Agent, didn't he do the effects for this?
Maybe.
So this is the first time that we've seen Dracula have any of these powers. There's a part where he gets shot at and he just shrugs it off like nothing.
Or rather that it goes through him, which I thought...
It did, yeah.
That it does that because, of course, he has mist powers. He could just...
These are powers that we're always told Dracula has. Like, his ability to... they'll say, oh, he has the ability to turn into bats, into mist. He could transform himself into a wolf. It's funny, in the movie, he says, well, he could become a bat or a werewolf. And I was like, I see what you did there. He could become a wolf man even. No.
Yeah, a secondary thing is that with, of course, the non-introduction of various things, I guess the mystery elements are pretty good too. Just because of how they're not set up in any way, I guess you could say that it constantly keeps you guessing. Or rather, constantly keeps you in surprise.
I wanted to know why, is the relationship between Dracula and Catherine, is it real? Why are they doing this? But when you find out she's using him for his immortality to become a vampire, and then she plots with Frank to destroy Dracula, that's when it really, the plot really kicks off. Otherwise, it's just... there's little clues that Dr. Brewster is seeing, because Dr. Brewster really is the driver of the mystery, because he's snooping around, looking around, noticing things. He's the one that calls Dr. Laszlo about this whole Alucard. Who is this person? Vampire? What is this? Could he be Dracula? I don't know. He's the one that really drives that, that forward. So you kind of are following with him and piecing this together. You already know that he's Dracula, from the very outset. I mean, Alucard is just Dracula backwards,
that's another gripe that I particularly have with this movie is
what is it?
No one is really competent enough to figure out who Alucard is and kill him in time for Frank to do his business. And speaking of his business, he doesn't really do a good job as a protagonist either of doing too much.
Well, he's one of the first ones to actually go, he stands up to Alucard. there's a part where...
Well, when does that happen? Hour in.
Yeah. They get... I think it's like 40 minutes in. They get married. Catherine and Alucard get married with a justice of the peace. I mean, that's kind of the most normie thing that Dracula can do. That's like Dracula, going to the DMV to get his license renewed or something. That's the most normie thing to do. Oh, he goes to the justice peace to get married. He doesn't do a thing where he has an unholy wedding. Like it's like a black mass with instead of champagne we drink blood. I mean that's kind of dark and cool, but he just like, I'm going to the justice of the peace and I'm going to get my license renewed. There's
a particular point
where it's kind of so normal.
Where they see him get scared of a cross and turn into mist in front of them, and they're still like, oh, we don't know if it's Dracula. You just saw him turn into mist twice and get scared of a cross. And his name backwards is Dracula. And there's been some
Laszlo kind of helps out with that,
We don't know why what he's doing around here,
Right. Okay, here's my question. It's called Son of Dracula. We had Dracula's we had Dracula's daughter, who, according to the movie, was actually Dracula's daughter. This one, he is never known as the son of Dracula. He's just Dracula. That's why I think this is unrelated to Dracula's daughter, and it's unrelated to the previous movie, Dracula.
I don't think any of the movies are related to each other.
Oh, okay.
Neither of the three.
The only thing that maybe caused me to think that there might be a connection is that Bela Lugosi was supposed to film some scenes as Dracula, and we have some photos of him meeting with the actress who plays Zaleska.
Yes, and that would have been cool.
Yeah, but then that would have been a connection. But otherwise, I mean, you can't really connect it. If there's no footage there to connect it, then it doesn't. Yeah, I think it's very vague. How they're like, well, Dracula did this and that. But in Son of Dracula, they talk about Dracula as if he died. He died back in the Middle Ages. Like this is the first time Dracula ever shows up. And he's not the son of Dracula. The only son of Dracula that was an Alucard was Castlevania. Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, you get Alucard shows up, and he's actually the son of Dracula. How that happens, I think he's a.
Yeah, Aaron says that's a reference to Son of Dracula, but I'm like,
it is, but he's a Dhampir. A Dhampir is a. If you have a vampire and a human woman who mate, they have a half vampire called a Dhampir. Go figure.
I think other than the name, like Alucard being the son of Dracula in the Castlevania franchise, doesn't really clue into the movie at all.
No, it doesn't.
Because there have been parts where it says, "I am Alucard, son of Dracula," and then people like put the people pointing to the thing and go like, "Whoa, look, it means son of Dracula." Right. I don't think so.
Well,
the name is definitely a nod.
He's a literal son of Dracula. In this, he's not.
He's not.
But I think it kind of makes me think about, they had Son of Frankenstein, but that was actually Frankenstein's monster. But it was the son of, it was actual son of Dr. Frankenstein was in that. But I think they were just like, well, we have a sequel to Dracula, sort of. What do we call it? Son of Dracula. But he is Dracula. The way they talk about him, they're saying the Alucard is Dracula.
Yeah.
So this is a standalone. This is a standalone. They do not. There's no sequel that connects up to Son of Dracula at all. It's very like a one shot.
And upon not only do they know that he's turned to mist twice in front of him, been scared of crosses.
Yeah.
His name is backwards with the name of Dracula, a known vampire, and is doing suspicious activities that we don't know too much about. We're investigating here.
Right.
Why on earth he's relayed what he's doing to this Louisianian plantation.
Close. That was pretty good.
Did I pronounce Louisianian wrong?
It was close. again, it's been I haven't lived there for a long time, so
I have to say it with the accent, Louisiana.
Yeah. There used to have a joke they were saying that Louisiana was people can't decide how to even pronounce it because they're like,
yeah, more like Louisiana.
It was named after King Louis, not Queen Louise. You're like, so it's always been Louisiana. Yeah,
it's still Louisiana or Louisiana
or Louisiana or just Louisiana. Yeah. But
I guess we've lost the point.
We've lost the point, yeah. But I think they just chose this because it's America, and it's kind of creepy. It's not.
The setting isn't that distinct.
It's not Visaria. It's not Transylvania.
It's not like anywhere in Britain where anywhere in Britain has got to have like some flavor to it at least. Like, I mean, they don't really do that in this.
Same
as with the mummies.
They're all London. It's all London, yeah.
The Mummy Returns. Whatever was that third movie? I don't remember.
The Mummy's Tomb, the Mummy's Curse, the Mummy's whatever.
Hand.
That
might have been it.
I think we did Hand, Curse.
The son of the Mummy. Proclaimed.
The son of the Mummy. Yeah, right. Yeah, he's going to actually able to... Well, he's always trying to get a bride. He's always trying to bring back Anck-su-namun. Yeah.
Oh, wasn't there like...
Princess Ananka.
There's this dude while they're captured in jail, which I don't remember for what reason.
Yeah.
The two of them, Frank and Kate, or Kat, I guess, are in jail.
Yeah, no. Frank's in jail because he fessed up to the murder. He's like, yeah, I killed Kate. And they're like, oh, okay. And they found Kate's body, so they're like, I guess, But
but Kat's alive, and
but they don't know that. She just shows up in the cell.
She shows up in the jail cell, but the thing is, the jail cell. Sorry,
cell. That's
cell.
Fine. Yeah.
But the thing is, there's a dude out there who can hear them conversing and everything,
but
he does not get suspicious because he's so dumb that he's like, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm not gonna raise the alarm. I'm not gonna be alarmed.
He thinks he's a weirdo, and he does mention. Well,
he looks to be fairly intelligent. He's not like a non-stereotypical. He's not like a comedy relief policeman.
No, right. He's not. Well,
pick one of the two.
We're not in London. We're not in London. If we were in
Frankenstein.
If we were in London, they'd be like, "I don't like this invisible man out here." They're kind of dumb. But
versus he's an average American man, and he does not have any sense to if he hears plans people commuting in a jail cell where there was one person, to not be a slightly bit suspicious and raise alarm.
Do you mean colluding?
Well, they're commuting. They're commutes. They're like over coffee or something.
Okay, communicating. No colluding. No colluding. Colluding would be making plans, secret plans.
They're gallivanting.
They're chitty-chatting. All right. So, but
this conversation, this
conversation,
verbiage, this commute, this gallivanting is really making me miss this podcast.
Yes. Okay.
It's been a long time coming. So
it has been a long time coming. So what? So specifically, I think I don't know. He's talking to himself, so they probably thought, "Hey, this weirdo guy." I don't think I don't think he would think he's actually talking to a ghost or talking to a vampire woman. I don't think he thinks that. He just thinks this guy's weird. He's a murderer. I mean, he didn't think much past that. We caught the guy who did it. He's weird. He's talking to himself. I don't think that he figured that at all. That figured it out in this at all.
But then they were like, oh shoot, they were talking about like escaping and stuff, and so he manages to escape and to get to Alucard. What is your opinion of Lon Chaney Jr. in this movie? Is he spooky? Is he scary? Is he notable?
No. I think honestly, the best character type that Lon Chaney Jr. plays, Lawrence Talbot. I mean, he plays it a few other times, and we'll see him more as this season goes. We'll see him at least two or three more times. When he plays the mummy, I can't even tell that's him. It could be anybody. You know,
it could be someone better. Mic drop.
It could be. But when he plays the Wolfman, he does a great job at it because he has this kind of sad face, like cursed, you know, like he wants to be rid of this curse. He does that really well, but being threatening, like a straight up evil character that's just choosing to be evil, it doesn't quite work out. He kind of,
we don't know anything about him.
He doesn't look like Bela Lugosi's foreign royalty, with the strange accent. He has no accent. I mean, there's a part where he says decadent and he says decadent. Did you notice that? I thought he said decayed, one time, but he was saying decadent. Like, it's pronounced decadent, but they're like, keep going. You did great. You did great, Lon.
I think it was the transatlantic accent might have still been sticking around, although that went away with the 30s.
He sounds like he has
in
a
the 50s,
California
people sound
accent.
more normal.
He sounds like he has a California accent. He does, he just sounds like, a California actor.
It's a bit hard to tell.
He doesn't really have a foreign accent.
Which reminds me of people who are trying to restore Jim Henson's voice when he was doing the early Muppet stuff, the Sam and Friends stuff. Sam and Friends? That was like his first puppet project.
I didn't know that. I thought
they had Kermit.
Kermit
actually originated from the show. It's in black and white. It's called Sam and Friends. They do like little stuff with the puppet characters.
Okay.
They're restoring his voice, and it sounds when the restoration or the person was doing that, it sounded a lot more like Southern. You could hear like more of an accent peeking way more in. And he was like, well, it could easily be a mistake with what I'm doing, but it could also be his origins that his accent was actually there, but it was hidden a lot by the the static noise and whatever. And that it went away as he went into the modern era, so that nowadays he doesn't really have that accent anymore.
I mean, Kermit is from the Bayou.
I guess it's connected. Lon Chaney Jr. is Kermit. He's found that rainbow connection with Kate.
He's found that rainbow connection. No, do you remember the scene where the boy is brought in? And it's like he's like, quote, the first real victim of Dracula. The boy is brought in. He's got the bite marks on him. And the mom comes and says, oh, he said there was a foreign man who had an accent. And Lon Chaney Jr. is not even trying to do an accent. He doesn't sound foreign whatsoever. So they're like, no, trust us. He's Hungarian. They don't even say Transylvanian. You notice that? They say Hungarian. And even when they talk to Dr. Laszlo, they're like, are there, any Alucard families in Hungary? And he's like, I don't know of any, what about Dracula? It's, oh, well, in my native land, Hungary. Now, Bela Lugosi is Hungarian. Dracula's Transylvanian, Romanian. He's Romanian. So they're not even getting that right. One theory that people were saying, I think online, some people that were talking about this movie, they were saying that there was a reason why they didn't mention Romania, because it was World War II and there was some kind of situation going on over there. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
Because they just had this, the Queen, I don't remember her name. She was
Zimba.
Off character, Queen Zimba.
Well, she
from
was
the
on
beginning of the movie.
She was on camera for like 5 minutes. Yeah.
She was like the one of those that grandma from Princess and the Frog sort of type of character.
Yeah, Tiana
living in the bayou.
Right. The Tiana story. Yeah. No, she's Hungarian. They call her Hungarian. They say she's a queen. But almost like, you have voodoo queens or whatever. But she's not voodoo, but she has a lot of similarities in terms of having like, weird weird chanting over a flame. She's a witch. There's even Frank even calls it out and goes, "Oh well,
So yeah, still don't know what's up with that.
He says, "Good riddance to that old swamp hag," and I'm like, dude.
If they don't really acknowledge that at all in the movie, then that's off the table. Otherwise, that's on the table.
They don't say Transylvania. That's what.
They don't say Transylvania.
That was the point I was trying to make.
The thing I was thinking about with how Lon Chaney is in this movie is that he's like Nicolas Cage in... Oh wait, actually, now that you think about it, I think Lon Chaney Jr. is just like Nick Cage.
Okay.
Because if I do recall, he planted himself in a lot of low movies because of his spending habits. That's what I'm looking at here.
Yes.
So now that you think about it, actually, he's just straight up like Nicolas Cage, just like a good actor in not being held back by not so great films or not so great roles. They both played Dracula. When do you do that?
There's a movie called Renfield that came out last year.
I did not know he was in that.
Yeah, it's rated R. It's like a hard R movie. But what they did is he kind of did his version of Bela Lugosi mixed with more of a monstrous take on it, more of a more evil, overtly evil. In Renfield,
if he cultivates a mustache, I could see it.
Yeah, well, Renfield is actually... He didn't have a mustache in that, but Renfield is, is actually...
Now.
There's even parts where, with the actor playing Renfield in the movie, almost does a kind of a quasi Dwight Fry impression. And he does eat bugs. He'll eat bugs and get their life force, and he'll get like a little momentary boost to his abilities.
Yeah. But I was going to name a particular example, which was another recent one, called Willy's Wonderland.
Yes.
Willy's Wonderland. The animatronic restaurant, really bad movie. It is the
yeah.
I'm going to make another Winnie the Pooh blood. It's the Winnie the Pooh blood and honey type sort of deal. Which then again, people might not know both of those movies.
It came out before.
Sorry, people in 2030.
It came out before the movie Five Nights at Freddy's, which actually Five Nights at Freddy's did better numbers, and I think probably because it had the name recognition. I mean, Willy's Wonderland had elements in it that feel like it's an homage to Five Nights at Freddy's, but Five Nights at Freddy's was actually based off of the actual characters. Freddy Fazbear and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the Willy's Wonderland, though, they just didn't have it from the marketing standpoint at all.
No.
And not great movie at all. Anyway, Nick Cage in that movie is a silent character. He is called the Janitor.
Yes.
And the only thing he does is appear at the beginning of the movie. I'm pretty sure, maybe something at the end of the movie, but I don't think so.
No, he does. He fights. He fights the animatronic.
Yeah, he just fights one of the animatronics at some point.
Yeah.
All the rest of the movie, they pop in on him, and he's playing pinball. He's just playing pinball. And they have montages of him playing pinball. And it's like, you've got a good actor here. Why not put him to use?
He's okay.
Why not give him something to chew?
Well, okay. Here's the thing.
He's just
his
presence is nil.
Okay, but here's the thing.
He could be removed.
The biggest question about Nicolas Cage is he the best actor? Is he the worst actor? And it depends on what movie you're watching at any one time. Sometimes he'll turn it into a performance. You're like, that was pretty good, and then he'll do another one. You're like, what was he thinking? So it honestly depends on the day.
Yeah, and that's gotta describe Lon Chaney Jr. in many aspects.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Lon Chaney Jr. wasn't exactly plagued by his spending habits. I think he was plagued by his drinking habits. Do you remember
furthermore, he was plagued by the downfall of the Universal Monster film catalog.
Yeah, well, Bela Lugosi, same thing. But Bela Lugosi also had an addiction that he was dealing with. And I think that, but the habits that they had caused them not to be able to be in the big movies. And Lon Chaney Jr. was in Of Mice and Men. You know, he's played in some movies where he did a really good job. I mean, you're like, oh, that was really good. But you know, the Wolfman movies, there's maybe 3 more that he can do, and there's maybe a handful of Mummy movies, and it's kind of, that's it for him. We will see him again. There's some standalone Man-Made Monster and Indestructible Man. We'll see him again, but you could tell he's getting, he's aging. His faces are getting a little bit pudgy. There's a pudginess.
And just during his like prime, he had like a kickstart, but like he wasn't getting anything really good.
This is his prime. Digging. This is his prime, unfortunately.
This is his prime. But, another thing I was going to say might be an example, although I don't have too much experience.
Right.
Was thinking like, isn't Adam Sandler sort of like he's sort of like an up and down sort of
yes
thing? Because it's like,
he'll do something really good.
What does Uncut Gems put into that discussion?
He's really good in Uncut Gems.
Good actor, but like, is that being a good actor?
There's another movie that he's in.
I think there's a movie called The Cobbler, which is apparently he was not really great in.
No, and he wasn't good in Halloween Hubie or whatever they call. He was not. There's a lot of movies he's not really good in. And then there's some movies where you're like, wow, he did a pretty good job in that. Yeah,
like I think was he in Rain Man, right?
No. That's Dustin Hoffman, and Dustin Hoffman has been really more good than
Billy Madison.
Those are so bad.
Yeah, I keep thinking the third one, and I think of Rain Man. So I'm not,
Daddy.
I'm not qualified.
Yeah, he's kind of hit or miss. Yeah, Adam Sandler really is hit or miss. Sometimes he'll get like a project that he really wants to do. He really wants to act in, and he'll do a great job in. And then there's some that you're kind of like, okay.
But then it's like, even still, did Adam Sandler...
Like Little Nicky or whatever?
Yeah, Little Nicky. I think that's like the 4th pick.
Yeah,
I guess. I think that's like the thing I was thinking.
That movie could be called Son of Devil. I mean, that would make sense.
We
were talking about...
It's like, he's up and down, but still like, you know, outside of like name, does he make like a mark on stuff like... Well, probably a funny pick would be Robert Downey Jr. and stuff.
Robert Downey Jr. more often than not has had really good roles. Okay, I mean,
just like
Dr. Dolittle sucked.
Who people will actually think of.
Dr. Dolittle was bad, but
isn't Dr. Dolittle?
There's a new Dr. Dolittle, and he was really bad.
He was in the new Dr. Dolittle.
He came right off of Endgame to the new Dr. Dolittle, and it sucked.
Yeah, I bet he was like really tired. He's like they just shot with me a whole lot of stuff.
It was bad. It had CGI animals and all kinds of stuff.
And then they pull him in. Really.
And then Robert Downey Jr. comes out and does Oppenheimer and gets an Academy Award. So, I mean, go figure. So, but honestly...
No actor is, like, truly, like, prolific. Truly, that would have to be, like, a whole discussion of its own.
Well,
but, like, Adam Sandler...
Was
any of his movies, like, really good outside... Or any actor you can think of really good outside, like, a certain space? Like, Will Ferrell's in his little bucket. Adam Sandler's in his little bucket. That's just a greater discussion.
Well, Adam Sandler actually has done some dramatic roles. Yeah, and some of those are really good.
He had Uncut Gems.
Yeah. Well, he's got Uncut Gems, and there's a couple other ones he's done too. Yeah, he did one. He did one where it's like he's a coach or something like that. He's an agent for like basketball player. That one's pretty good. But anyway, so Lon Chaney Jr. I have to say this is not his best role. I mean, he's not scary. I mean, the effects are kind of cool, but he's not scary. He's kind of more kind of puppy dog sad sack, to be honest. It doesn't.
Although there are many people who have said that he was actually like really good in this film and he was scary, and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm not. I can't go with you on that.
It depends.
The movie's decent, but I honestly,
is it really just the smoking mirrors?
Yeah, or bats
the
and
smoking
mist.
mirrors around him, or the guy's face himself. I mean, he does look very like plain face versus like Bela Lugosi's got that nose.
Yeah, and also we have another actor portraying Dracula in the House of Frankenstein, House of the Monster Mash movies, basically. So we'll have to see if you like that performance of it, as opposed to and Bela Lugosi will always be Dracula to me. I mean, he does an excellent Christopher Lee in the Hammer movies, he does a pretty iconic job in that. But Bela Lugosi will always be in my mind as Dracula.
Yeah, even like Return of the Vampire, which is...
Yeah.
Now that you think about it, based on something certain in the ending of the movie, this might just be like a remake of Return of the Vampire. So, like,
okay.
Return of the Vampire is a rehash, or not like a rehash, like a new take on Dracula, and then this movie is a new take on Return of the Vampire, but, like,
maybe
it
so.
took over in the zeitgeist?
Well, I think it's got too many similarities to original Dracula 1931.
It does. It has, like, a woman who wants to be with Dracula. It's got, trying to stop
the David
Dracula.
Manners Harker kind of character who's the boyfriend. It's got
a guy turning into a skeleton at the end. I guess they're but in the first one it was actual melting effect, and this it's just a boom, he's a skeleton.
Right. So okay, what do you think about?
Let's compare.
What do you think about Louise Albritton's job though? I mean, did she do a good job in this? I thought she did pretty good. Playing Kate.
I guess so.
Maybe it's okay.
She doesn't really she's just not strong at all. I feel like Return of the Vampire is better in many aspects, although these movies are sort of very similar, although this one took over in the zeitgeist. But I feel like some of the things that this movie had in comparison, worse setting definitely. I mean, Return of the Vampire had like the wars going on. We have like this time
fast forwarded, time
flashback sort of thing. We've got like, just a whole lot of different personality. You've got different like sets, which we talked about their reuse method last episode.
Yeah,
of how they could use like AAA sets. They could just merely because of reuse.
The A-level pictures reuse some of their sets. Yeah,
I do also think that this is a more simple story because, again, that had, like, flashbacks, and there's, like, a couple more characters. We've got this female detective lady who's sort of on the case, as well, joined by her, like, crew, I guess, to put it simply.
She's not quite a detective. She's just a rich lady who wants to solve this. So...
Well, she's driving the story, is what I was saying.
No, you're right. So
it's also got worse variety as well, because again, I'm talking about the variety of different things that the movie had. Like it had levity with those graveyard guys. This movie doesn't really have any levity at all.
No, there isn't any
again,
levity
more powerful feeling characters, because in this movie, no one really feels like they have power level to go like, okay, this actor is acting here. We've got things to care about. It's like the female woman. Kate is like, okay, she's doing some stuff. Frank is like, okay, he's doing some stuff. The detective people were like, okay, we're doing some things.
By the numbers. That's the word you're probably looking for.
Yeah, very by the numbers. Sort of like a Kurtzman Mac, like very cleanly built. But again, it's like, there's so much you could have done here that you didn't. So, like, wasted potential.
Also, if you think about
interesting themes as well, because we have, like, the wolf guy who is like, I'm cursed to be this way, but I don't really want to be. I'll break out in, like, resistance.
Wait, I thought we were saying that Son of Dracula was very by the numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Return of the Vampire had more interesting themes versus this movie. That's what I was saying. More interesting themes. this movie doesn't have, like, barely any, except what would you do if you want to be immortal? What is immortality like? Although then again, she's like, it would be boring, because your plan is to just do research all day and be shut in your house with no friends.
Like I said before, the research angle is just to give an excuse for what they do all day. I don't think they're really doing research.
Yeah, but what would she do after her plan to kill Alucard? What's she gonna do after that? Just live?
Her and Frank hanging out at the Dark Oaks all day long, all night long.
Yeah, like literally
Nothing,
just
not
like
really. Yeah, I don't see. She said there's a.
She
part
doesn't
where
have
she
like
said,
any romantic. She doesn't have any romance with anyone. They don't set up any like romance really.
Well, there's a part that she says, "Wouldn't you rather have an eternity with me than just a lifetime with me?" A lifetime short relationship is just really short, and eternity is much better, isn't it? Right.
There's been like, thinking about like immortality stories. I think it's a show called Freerun. It's basically about it's in a fantasy setting where there's this elf lady who has outlived all of her like RPG party. And so she is here, like, this is like the aftermath sort of that, some of the adventures she goes on to, like, I guess, avenge them, I guess. I'm not really too familiar with the series.
Yeah.
But it's really good, people say. And, like, a lot of thoughts about, like, what is it to be immortal if, you're picking up the pieces of who your party were, sort of, throughout the episodes.
So you're saying, do you think that
like,
they
conflicted inside, and it's really well done, apparently.
Do you think they could have done something like that with her character? That might have been.
They don't have any theme of immortality in this. It's just like she wants to be immortal because she's fascinated with it. She's the mystical, the occult.
She's afraid of death. She's interested in death but afraid of it. They say she's morbid. Is what they use. Is morbidity is morbid is like an attraction to death, but also a fear of it, an innate fear of death. And Laszlo, I think, does mention that.
It's like it'll be interesting if it's like maybe there's something in her past, which was like she wants to be immortal to fix things,
right?
As I said, pick up the pieces. So many explanations for. The before and after that don't get. There's just nothing. There's a gap, writing gap.
Can we look at you want to look at the plot and see if that, and I'll kind of read out or explain what.
Oh shoot! I was supposed to do a little bit of production.
So what?
We get carried away here.
So what are some notes that you wanted to bring to our attention?
It was held back 6 months to release in October. I guess if they were planning on going like, this needs to release on Halloween, but it's not exactly Halloween. It's like the 2 weeks before, or is it? No,
that's a good time to do those movies because you can watch it before and leading up to as soon as Halloween comes up. Yeah,
it came out like Black Friday, I guess. That's just about that time.
There you go.
Better pick up a copy of the Blu-ray and when it comes out on Black Friday. On launch day, which then again, theaters don't really do Blu-rays day one, which is fine.
No. So that's actually a pretty good time to come out with it. Yeah.
Universal presented their Dracula idea titles, which were the Modern Dracula, Return of Dracula, and Son of Dracula. They were presenting them to the Hayes office, and they were doing this a lot, like commuting with the Hayes office.
Yeah.
Hollywood Reporter later announced in December that production would start on January 4th. To meet a deadline, they sent a new draft to the Production Code Administration with a script titled Destiny for approval.
Destiny.
And then they had to get another script, which is a decent bit of the delay, I guess.
Okay.
So there's just like a lot of involvement with the Production Code people, which I think is weird because most of the time, they're not really involved except for the end. They put the sticker on the box.
Oh, yeah.
That goes...
Well, I think they were trying to you try to head it off at the pass. Like, what are some things you might object to so we don't waste time filming those things. That's kind of what I was thinking about is.
But, like, I guess it's so interesting that they just have to be in total commute through the process with the MPAA as the predecessors of the MPAA.
Yeah, the pre-MPAA, right.
Do you say MPAA? the motion pictures.
The pre-MPAA.
American.
A.
Awesome.
A.
Ow.
How many A's can we add?
How many A's can we add?
But yeah, I mean, wouldn't you get in touch with them first and go, okay, here's the script. Here's some things that are happening in the script. Because if they're just going to cut things out at the end, I mean, you could do like what some of these other people was like, oh, do you don't like that scene? Okay, great. We'll take it out, we promise. And then they'll just leave it in. We've talked about some other movies where they said, yeah, sure, we'll make those changes. And then they either put something out there that was like more objectionable than what they had said before.
Yeah, and then constant rejection, and that's why it's delaying. Interestingly enough, this was announced alongside Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which would actually make a March release date, which would assumedly be like a good production time,
right?
I guess. So that had come out this same year, and had been out for a while. So I wonder how much that impacted Son of Dracula, but we'll have to see next episode when we do that.
Yes, and I think you're probably gonna like. And even though it doesn't have the traditional Frankenstein that you might remember.
Yeah, obviously,
it's played by Bela Lugosi this time. Speaking of Bela Lugosi, there's one thing that we can say about Lon Chaney Jr. is he played all the Universal monsters, the main ones. He didn't play the Invisible Man or the creature from the Black Lagoon. Those are like your core Universal monsters. The only other person to even match that, close to match that, would be Christopher Lee from Hammer movies, because he played Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, Dracula, of course, and he played a character that had a sister that was a werewolf. So that's interesting. So what are some other...
Speaking of rivalries,
yeah,
Robert Sudmak was the director of this movie, and Kurt Sudmak was on the story, and they had a little bit of a rivalry simply because Robert Sudmak does not want two Sudmaks in anything he is doing with.
Didn't he want his brother to change his last name?
Have not looked into that.
I think he did, and Kurt Sudmak refused.
Says, when we were in Germany, Robert had a magazine, and when I wrote it, I had to change my name. Oh yeah, that's that. He only wanted one Sudmak around. This lasted 71 years until he died.
Yeah, that's hardcore. I mean...
70 years is like, how many generations? Like, if it takes up to or more than one generation rivalry, then that's serious stuff.
That's a little much. I mean,
it's a little much.
I don't think I think their rivalry was worse. Their rivalry was worse than the rumored one between Karloff and Lugosi. That one was, I think, maybe a little overblown. I think people kind of, because there's these two titans of horror. They're like, oh, they didn't like each other. They maybe had some friendly banter, friendly rivalry, but the Sudmaks, that's hardcore. I don't like that.
Robert Sudmak, then on a $150 a week contract, said it was reluctant to take the film, called the script terrible. It had been knocked together in a few days. Apparently his wife persuaded him to take it, who said if he showed he was a little better than Universal's other writers, it would impress the studio. We did a lot of rewriting, and the result wasn't bad. It wasn't good, but some scenes have a certain quality. I actually am inclined to agree.
So that's a good review of this movie. It wasn't good, wasn't bad, but some scenes had a certain quality.
A certain quality. Is it low quality or high quality?
That's our review. Know. This movie is kind of mid, if you want to use, current.
Okay, here apparently, Robert J. Kiss, which is, funny if you be on the band Kiss.
Yeah.
Just, his last name is Kiss. That's so weird. Said the delay in the film's release might be related to war films being made, because they were smack dab in the middle of World War II.
They're very profitable. Those war movies were very profitable. They were very they were dramatically touching to people because this was a real situation that people were dealing with. I mean, people weren't just going, I want to know what goes on with Son of Dracula because, my uncle's a vampire and it means something to me. I mean, with these war films, you're like, not only is it propaganda too, because you're like, our boys in green are gonna take out those Nazi hooligans. It's actually real life drama happening, and so you can.
And that's why a lot of people are addicted to the news.
Yeah, and a lot of times
have to constantly be up on what's happening.
Well, and also movies that get made,
and that's why we're doing movies from a century ago.
Well, what I'm saying is there's a lot of movies that get made that are called ripped from the headlines because the scriptwriter is basically going, hey, what's big right now? Oh, artificial intelligence. Well, let's make a movie about artificial intelligence. That's what, or about a foreign war or Russia or something. Let's make something like that somebody could really, relate to because it's ripped from the headlines. You just take a news item and you just change the some of the elements. But yeah, the war films would definitely cut into a lot of Universal and monster movie kind of profits during this time. So
yeah, speaking of profits, Son of Dracula's was 23% above average sales and declared a hit by the publication. Universal's best performing film in either the horror or science fiction genres during this period. In comparison, Invisible Man's Revenge, which is, I believe, the fourth movie we're doing, I believe.
Third or fourth, yeah.
Is 13% above. So, like, half.
Yeah. So
and the Mummy's The Mummy's Ghost.
Right.
Was 5% above average. So there would be a decline.
It's kind of going down.
It would be about the same as Return of the Vampires, although obviously it would swoop over the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
It would be about there, or no, it would beat. It would beat the Return of the Vampire. It would be about the same as this movie, The Ghost Ship, which kind of looks interesting. Might want to peg that for doing later.
Right.
It's spooky ships, things going on. That sounds interesting.
Was it the newer Ghost Ship or it was an old Ghost Ship movie?
43.
Interesting.
1943.
But
did not do well as The Lodger.
Oh, the remake of The Lodger. Okay, The Lodger was a Hitchcock movie. This might be a remake of that.
Oh no. I did not know they made that many remakes of Alfred Hitchcock movies.
Hitchcock remade The Man Who Knew Too Much, I think.
Just people are constantly trying to remake Hitchcock.
He remade his own movie.
Oh, that's hilarious.
No.
And then people were saying, it's a bit unintentionally funny, but pretty palate offering, well made, intelligent direction, accomplished without gloves and makeup, which he's generally smeared. Yeah, I'm like, just clean, very sophisticated British workature.
The reason why they said that talking about the globs and makeup, William, is because Lon Chaney Jr. is always wearing lots of makeup all over his face, and in this one he just gets to show his face as normal. So they didn't have to do all that to him and let his acting shine through. Okay,
what acting was there?
Whatever
held back
was
by
there,
clumsy antics of the skeptical cops and plotting exposition spouted by an old Carpathian doctor. Okay, Seattle, I see what you're doing here.
Laszlo, yeah.
I don't think they're clumsy antics. I think they're just not doing much. I think antics.
I don't really see antics in this, yeah.
I don't see much funny in this film, really.
So we start off in a train station. We've got Dr. Brewster, played by Frank Craven, and we've got Frank Stanley, played by Robert Page. And they are waiting for a passenger to arrive. This guy's name is Count Alucard. He's not there, but his baggage is, and it has the word Dracula or Alucard, whatever, written sideways. So he ends up reading it backwards. You know, he starts reading it D-R-A-C. Oh, what is that? Oh, nothing. You know, you know, it's kind of a childish kind of way of doing that. So the person who's invited Alucard here in America is Catherine, played by Louise Albritton, and she is Frank's fiance. She has invited Alucard to stay at Dark Oaks, which is her father's plantation. So Dark Oaks is getting ready to have a party to honor the Count, but he hasn't arrived yet. Catherine's talking to her sister, Claire, played by Evelyn Ankers. And we find out she's really into the occult and spooky stuff. And she goes, I know he's going to be arriving. I just know it. Because she's been communicating with him telepathically, which is weird. After that scene, to put a dot kind of on her occult connections, she goes to see Queen Zemba, who is this kind of, voodoo kind of witch, I guess.
Because she can't just trust in her romantic, loved boyfriend if he will be coming, if he says he's coming.
Right.
He has to confirm it with a queen, Zemba.
Well, Zemba says, she goes, oh, I foresee doom, and she said, oh, about Count Alucard? He goes, his name is not Alucard. All I see for you is like vines taking over Dark Oaks and broken windows with bats flying into them and stuff. It's like,
and you're marrying a corpse.
Yes, you're marrying a corpse. It's like, oh, okay, cool. All right, a bat flies in, and Zemba just has a heart attack.
Yeah, because how would she react to that information? Just get on out of here.
Yeah, and she doesn't even stay there and go, oh, poor Zemba. She's just like, I'm out. So the party's going great, but no, there's no Count Alucard there. And we do see him kind of outside, and he looks over his shoulder kind of at us, kind of in a way. So he's like, I'm Dracula. Scared of me? And we're like, not really. Nice mustache, by the way. Actually, if you read the book Dracula, the mustache is actually literarily accurate. And the guy who plays Dracula, John Carradine, in the Monster Mash movies, he has a mustache in that as well. So that actually is true to the book. So I got to give it that. I got to give it a point. I give it a point. An anti-cinema sin. So Catherine's father is tired. He's in a wheelchair, and he's like, "Oh, take me upstairs." Oh, by the way, if you took a drink of alcohol every time you saw a servant, you'd be drunk by about an hour in. It's a lot.
Well, there's just two of them, 2 or 3 of them.
2 or 3, yeah. Well, you get the maid. So he's tired, so he gets taken upstairs by the guy that works for their family. He's gonna smoke a cigar up there. After he leaves, Bat flies in, turns into Dracula. It is Dracula's Alucard. We'll call him Alucard until he gets discovered.
And what do you think of the Bat? Cute or scary?
Not scary, but cool.
I think in some cases it can appear just like a little bit cute.
Yeah, especially when it's crawling on Frank's back in just a minute. We'll see.
Yeah, particularly when it's crawling on Frank's back. Everywhere else.
Also, did you notice?
Scary skeleton.
Did you notice that Alucard does show up in Reflections?
He does appear in Reflections. But he doesn't like all these things.
No, yeah, he has all the other powers except for I think they just did that because they couldn't pull it off. Dracula's doing something upstairs. Frank and Catherine are having a discussion downstairs. Frank says, "I've been checking in on this Alucard. I called the Hungarian embassy, and they have no knowledge of this guy. I think he's a fake." And somebody calls us, "Hey, come up here. There's smoke coming out of the upstairs. The dad is dead, and he's got some bite marks on his neck." Everybody reacts pretty bad to it, except for Catherine.
Because she is getting the entire plantation because of this.
Yeah, she is. So, Brewster sees all this, and when he gets home, he starts thinking about Alucard and Dracula. And how
I think out of all of the doctor names, Dr. Brewster, it sounds a little bit silly. Like, why is he named after my favorite Chuggington character?
He's kind of normal, I guess. It's their normal name. So he calls.
Well, I don't think it is. It constantly hear that yellow and blue train sing the theme song every time you say Dr. Brewster.
Right.
And I'm like, how can I treat this dude seriously?
Her and Frank are kind of having a little bit of falling out, and she's being kind of weird. And Brewster is thinking maybe we could declare her insane. I was like, wow, that's a step. But Frank spies on her because she is meeting Alucard out in the middle of the swamp, and that's a good scene. His coffin actually comes out of the swamp, and he floats over the swamp toward her. It's pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
That's the one thing that's like undeniably cool.
It's a good. It's kind of iconic scene. So, but they, like I said before, they do the most normie thing ever, and they go get married with a justice of the peace at midnight. That's just really weird. That's something like little, 18-year-old, lovebirds would do. So they go do it.
And Frank is like, because obviously a lot of this is just like, I'm assuming that he doesn't know too much about their relationship as well. What are you doing suddenly marrying this random dude?
Yeah, bro, you need to get out of town. Get out of town, Alucard.
Get out of town.
He's like, I do not understand. And then
one thing is he just moves immediately to like shooting with just this really weird expression on his face.
But Alucard first chokes him out and then throws him. And they said like a baby.
Well, yeah, that, and then his like response is to just stare at him with the beady eyes and just a wide stare as he's pulling out his pistol.
So he pulled out his gun and start blasting, and
it's like, surely you have some words to say.
No, he doesn't. Catherine is behind Alucard,
like,
and the bullets go right through Alucard and hit Catherine and kills her, and it freaks Frank.
Yeah,
out.
And he just leaves.
He just books it, and he's just staggering through the swamp.
Like, if I was in this situation, I wouldn't be just immediately like, I have to kill this dude.
Well, it's really suspicious. I mean,
well, it's suspicious certainly, but why would I kill him? Why wouldn't I? Tell someone?
Well, okay, and
does he have any evidence?
Dracula chases after him.
That he's a vampire?
In bat form.
But yeah, he just goes leaving.
Frank
shoots her, and then
shoots him, and it kills her. Shoots him.
And then he falls in the mud. He just runs until he falls into the mud. Like,
yeah, but
why?
he's in front. I don't know. He's in front of a mausoleum, which is like a place where they would bury. In swampy areas, they buried people above ground.
I haven't had much mud in any of these films, so that's like one thing.
I guess. And then the bat lands on his back, and he's going. It's going, oh, kind of cute.
But it's set up.
Bats are soft like cat, Yeah, well, what happens is first...
Yeah, for those that don't know, that's from the Vampire Bat, a film we used to do, or not used to do, that we did before, where it had Dwight Fry doing a character who is responding to someone's hate for bats in that movie by going like, bats are soft like cats. Why I hate them,
He's so sweet.
And we constantly reference that.
So the moonlight put the moonlight on a cross, which is in the cemetery, and it scared him away. And he is out of there.
Well, the thing is, it's like there are crosses on all like grave sites and tombstones and stuff that he's around, and on coffins.
He doesn't see the crosses until it's dramatically important. We go back to Dr. Brewster. He is shown reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. So in the universe of this movie, there actually is a Bram Stoker's Dracula book. That's interesting. So once Frank wakes up in the swamp, he goes to Dr. Brewster's house. He is losing his mind. He goes, I killed Kate. And he's like, losing it. And he's doing a pretty good job, at that. And we see Alucard shoveling dirt, Hungarian dirt, into a coffin, and he puts Kate in it. They're like, oh, that's kind of sus. Dr. Brewster goes back from Chuggington. He goes back to Dark Oaks, and he snoops around, and he finds a coffin with chicken feathers in it, and cages with live chickens in it. And I was thinking, so Dracula likes chicken nuggets at night. He likes to just kind of nervously eat. So he's like, he's a KFC guy.
But not a Zaxby's guy?
No. So
wouldn't he be going for that Zaxby's chicken wings?
Yes.
Aren't they open at night?
Not too late. Not as late as he would be awake. Okay, so
how late is KFC open then?
So Brewster, Alucard actually shows up at the top of the stairs, and he basically goes, "What are you doing in my cellar? This is my cellar now." And he goes, he takes Brewster upstairs, and they see Kate. She's alive. She's kind of pale.
She's like, I'm fine. We married. We're going to just do research. Help research together and shut out society.
Alucard is the new master of Dark Oaks. He's like, if anybody shows up, they have to be personally allowed by me to do this. Otherwise, we wish to be left alone.
Which is funny. It's funny that he, during the beginning of the movie, he just allows himself in by just bullying the butler enough.
Announce me.
And now he's like, you have to get my permission. He's like, announce me.
Announce Count Alucard.
Announce Count Alucard. And then he's like, and he forces everyone else to have to go to him when he becomes the master. And it's like, well, okay, right. That's a little bit... You're saying one thing out of the left side of your mouth, another thing outside the right side of your mouth.
Yes. Okay, so Dr. Brewster goes back home in the morning, and Frank is gone. Judge Simmons, who is the judge in the town, and Brewster, they talk about the insanity declaration on Catherine. They get a call that says, hey, Frank showed up at the police station, and he confessed to the murder of Catherine. Brewster is trying to convince the sheriff, I saw Catherine alive. And the sheriff goes, well, we need to search Dark Oaks. So they meet Frank at Dark Oaks, and they go, all right, Frank, tell us the story of what happened, but take us through it. Walk us through where you were when different things happened. The sheriff finds Catherine's dead body in that mausoleum because Frank walks out to that swampy area and goes, this is where I fell down. They find Catherine's body in the mausoleum. They're like, oh, she's dead. Oh, yeah, Frank, you did kill her. And also, Dr. Brewster, did you try to cover this up? Are you a party to this? We're going to investigate.
Because honestly, Frank is he does not do a good job of, making a case at all.
No.
He's not like, I have determined to do this because of this. No, we don't get that. No one's sane in this movie.
No, nobody's sane.
No one's sane.
Brewster's
no one
pretty
has,
sane.
any sense of true reason.
Well,
everyone is a caricature.
Well, we don't know what's going on, right? So Professor Laszlo, who has traveled over from Hungary or whatever, all this way, he has an answer. He thinks that it's probably vampires. While Laszlo and Brewster are laying out the lore about the vampire lore, Alucard mist teleports under the door while he's talking, which actually is a pretty cool scene. They're like, he could turn into mist. and bats and wolves and stuff, and he starts...
Yeah, he just interrupts them, and then they turn over and go like, "Hey, you!" And then here's the cross.
He goes, "Check out what I got in my hand. Look over here, buddy." And he's like, he holds up the cross, yeah.
And then he gets scared away and turns into mist. And he's like, "Oh, but we don't know if he's Dracula yet." Ooh.
Oh, he is Dracula.
Which I said, which is like, there's already concrete proof. You've already had lots of suspicions. You can, and he got scared of a cross, which for some reason you thought would work out of all objects, random things.
Well,
that definitely works. You can definitely get a warrant for that.
Alucard or Dracula, whatever. He must have had a midnight snack before he got there, because he bit a little boy, and the little boy gets brought in, and they're like,
okay, now we can go get him.
And they draw some crosses on the marks on the neck. But I thought that was pretty cool, because they're like, what if Dracula comes back for some more, blood from this boy? I guess. So Laszlo is like, well, we have to stop Catherine too. What do we do? Well, cremation. Fire is another weakness. So we go.
Yeah, instead of putting a stake in them, instead fire is the way to kill them.
Well, they said that you could do a stake. You could that could do it. Plus, you could burn or destroy their place of rest, so they can't go rest. And then, of course, that would trap them in the sunlight, which actually that does happen.
Yeah, but you don't need the simplest things.
Yeah,
to happen, because otherwise we don't have any stakes.
Oh, good one. All right, so dad joke approved. So they need to stop Laszlo. So they're like, we can cremate her body at the morgue, because her body's at the morgue right now. Undead Catherine, she appears in mist and bat form, and she appears, like we talked about earlier, she appears in Frank's cell, and she reveals the master plan. She has become immortal. She's a vampire. She wants to destroy Dracula, and she wants to give the immortality to Frank, so Frank and her can live forever. He's like, you haven't really been lovey-dovey with me all this time, and now you want to hang out with me for life? That doesn't make any sense. He feels like second fiddle to Alucard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like the main thing of Frank being bitten as well is just like he has to.
Yeah, and didn't also she appeared in bat form and kind of nibbled on his neck for a moment. I mean, so she supposedly is getting.
She's like, "You're a vampire now, so
not
you have
quite.
to."
No, he's not a vampire yet. She's getting the process started. It's like they have to bite you and.
Well, that was literally like the thing she said. Like the argument is like, "You're already a vampire, so we have to go. You have to follow me."
Yeah, but according to the lore, he's not.
And so he just blindly gets it. But still, he's just like, I'm gonna follow in the escape plan. And it's like, okay.
Also,
that's the one thing is he's like, well, if there's nothing I can do, I have to follow her orders against my better judgment, or if I have any judgment at all.
They keep getting interrupted because Claire shows up because she wants to ask Frank about Alucard and where he is. And so, as soon as they show up, Catherine just disappears and while he's talking with her. So Frank escapes. And he heads out to Dark Oaks Plantation. He gets there ahead of Brewster.
Because they're all like, the guard there was like, surely there weren't any people colluding in there. I used the actual word, thank you.
Super colluding, right.
They were colluding. If you hear another voice in there talking about like suspicious things, making plans, even if you don't understand it, you should still alarm them. Because as far as you know, someone else is in there with them that wasn't there before. So someone stuck in are going to bring him out. So it requires investigation anyway. Just walk in there, see what they're doing, then ring the alarm. If not, ring the alarm.
Do it anyway.
Straight up. So even if it was a mouse, even if he was talking to himself as he actually was thinking that he could have been doing, I guess.
Okay, we are setting the record for interruptions.
I know. I wanted to make some points about how, like, there many things don't make sense in this film. That they put half of the things on the table, and the other half of things you would assume should be there aren't. But, like, it's otherwise a fairly well-made, good film. I just think that they needed to think through some stuff. They're like, okay, set this up, make this make sense, and everything like that.
Right.
And maybe recast somebody or two.
So the coffin gets destroyed, and there's a little bit of a tussle and a fight with Dracula. And then Frank goes into, and it's very, very quick and he's done. So Frank stumbles into the playroom or the attic, whatever, bedroom, where Catherine's supposed to be. He finds her coffin, and he knows he has to kill her. So he takes off his ring and puts it on Catherine's left ring finger, which is kind of like, till death do us part, till undeath do us part.
Yes.
And they start burning the body. And Brewster, Laszlo, and the sheriff arrive, and he shows them what he was doing. So they all stare at him, and he's kind of like he's mourning the lost loves. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, that's like the one
Dracula's
thing is
dead.
that, like, she's dead. She gets cremated, and they're like, oh no, she was so beautiful, I guess. I don't know. It's not really a deserved end, because, like, we don't get any of the three's relationships defined really well enough. At least for me.
No,
I'm like, while it's a good film, the action and all the things hold up, it's well done, it should be a good movie in all respects. But I'm just
they could add another actor. I think it would have done a little better, but the story is very...
They just needed to write some things in. I would say go for Return of the Vampire, and honestly...
If you want a better vampire movie,
if you want a more different film that has some more things... No, both the movies are absolutely perfect, however. I'm just saying that, like, there could have been some writing things that could have made this a little bit better. But otherwise, it is a good movie. I will say.
It's watchable. It's watchable. It's not terrible. I don't think it's like...
It is an A movie.
It's not The Ape,
Like a A natural. Because I'm a musician. But
right.
The A plus A, B plus B, C plus C, D. I don't think there's a D plus.
If we thought that Lon Chaney Jr. played a better Wolfman than he played Dracula, then we get rewarded with our next movie, which is going to be...
Which I'm actually looking forward to.
Frankenstein
versus the Wolfman. Meets the Wolfman.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of what you expect. It's got that that Germany kind of look, because you got the Frankenstein part of it. I think that
that action.
Yeah, it's the Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice of the Universal Cinematic Universe, if you want to say that. Yeah,
I guess. So which of these movies is the Infinity War, and which one is the Endgame?
Neither one.
Well, then.
Son of Dracula is like the Ant-Man of... No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't...
It's the Ant-Man of the Tarantino of the Uncut Gems.
We can't do this anymore. All right, comparison is the thief of joy. So we're just... Every time we compare
we're
something...
We're going to say, this movie was good. Looking forward to, like, the next movie. A lot more. Well, This one was pretty good. That movie will definitely probably be better, I think. Go listen to Season 2 before this. We've got a lot of context in a lot of Season 2 for where the 1940s is up at. That I think will be fairly interesting to you. I mean, if you like the Thief of Baghdad movie, we did that there too. That's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's gonna make a lot more sense to you if you kind of watch some of those movies that we talked about
because we're at the tail end of the 1940s era, and if you don't understand the 1940s era, then you're sort of confused.
We're in the mid 40s. We'll be at the end of the 40s, probably a little bit further into the season.
Yeah. But until then... Thanks for listening to Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. Click here and here for some more excellent content. Hope you'll enjoy it. See you soon!